So hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. As always, thanks for stopping by and hanging out for a few. My name is Rich, I'm the channel host, and today we're going to be doing some more drone talk. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the summertime temperatures and visual line of sight coming right up. All right, so what does the summer heat have to do with visual line of sight, you might be asking yourself. You like flying your drone, you get to look at the controller, you get to look at maybe like an iPhone screen. And while looking at the iPhone screen, you can navigate and fly your drone, and that's really awesome. Now, one of the things that the FAA does have out there is visual line of sight. That's one of the rules for our drone flight, keeping it within the range where we can see it with our own eyes, not just on screens. There's another reason to actually fly within visual line of sight during the summertime, something that I've picked up on over the years of flying. And that's very simply, my iPhone here or my iPad that's right over to the side here. These things do overheat during the summertime heat. It's happened to me a couple of times. One time I was flying in Page, Arizona, and Page, Arizona's got some really beautiful areas. Actually, it's outside of Page because a lot of the area around Page you can't fly your drones in. But if you head up to the Grand Staircase Escalante and some of the amazing rock formations on the Arizona-Utah border, there are some areas where you can fly your drone, like the Paria River movie set. That was one interesting place I took friends to 2 years ago. I used to go up there a lot for photography, some amazing rocks and, beautiful landscapes and slot canyons, you name it, that area's got it. So while I was flying at the Paria location, my iPhone started to dim. So I was actually looking at the iPhone screen. The iPhone screen was dimming. It was really weird. And then I got a notification that, hey, the iPhone's overheating and it's getting shut down for a few minutes to cool off. Well, now I didn't have that screen to look at while I was doing my flight. I just had my controller and I had my eyes and my ability to see the drone in the distance. And so I was able to navigate the drone. Now, if I was relying strictly on my screen, which had just overheated and I couldn't see what's going on, and it was not within my visual line of sight, I could have had some problems, including not being able to get the drone back to me. Of course, I can always hit that emergency return to home button on the Mavic or on the Mavic 2 Pro. But one strong argument for flying within visual line of sight is that if you have a failure like a smartphone that is overheating and you no longer have your video feed, if you are operating within visual line of sight, you can guide the drone back to yourself or also continue your flight. So at the time where I was, it was about 11:30 in the morning. It was somewhere around 90 something degrees. And the phone went dim and then it gave me the message that it was in fact shutting itself down. Now, this morning I was out flying, doing another construction site and doing some video of that construction site as well. And it popped into my head that we should talk about VLOS and whether or not you should fly outside of it. Now, you can get exceptions from the FAA for flying beyond line of sight, and more drone pilots and companies are applying for beyond line of sight. But I would suggest during the summer season to make sure, what temperatures can you operate at, especially if you're relying on video feeds back from the drone, and how hot is too hot. So you might want to do a little testing for yourself. Now, several weeks ago, while I was doing another construction location, I had one iPhone set up as a Wi-Fi hotspot that was feeding to my iPad Mini 4. And I was using the iPad to fly a new construction site, a small home build for one of my clients. And I had the iPhone sitting in my truck, and it was actually in a sunbeam. It was still earlier in the morning, so the interior of the truck wasn't super hot, but where I had my iPhone placed, the iPhone actually shut itself down due to overheating. So I lost my Wi-Fi signal that was going to my iPad mini. And so I saw that blink out. And when I took a look in the truck, sure enough, the iPhone had turned itself off so that it didn't cook. So I moved it to a shaded area in the truck, fired it back up, put it back on a Wi-Fi hotspot, and was able to finish what I was working on. But as things are heating up, we can run into these kinds of problems. So, when you're thinking about flying beyond line of sight, I know a lot of people do it without their waivers. And I know that they fly beyond where they can see. And at that point, you're relying on these screens. And if these screens overheat, if the apps crash or whatever, then it's going to come back to you to pilot your drone back with nothing more than you spotting it in the air or your visual observer spotting it in the air. So during this hotter season, I would really strongly suggest to keep visual line of sight in mind and probably stick to flying within that visual line of sight. As I've been doing my latest models in a larger area, I actually move myself along as I'm moving from map to map, so I don't stay in one location, because if I were to fly that entire space, it would absolutely be beyond my visual line of sight. With that in mind, I'll do a couple of maps. I'll relocate where I'm launching from. I'll do the next set of maps. I'll relocate where I'm launching from, all because of the fact that I do want to keep the drone within my visual line of sight. So there you go. There's my thoughts on VLOS, and I know that beyond line of sight is going to be becoming a bigger thing, but keep in mind, in the end, you're responsible for your aircraft, and if you lose line of sight of it and you've lost your video feed, it's tougher getting it back. We know we've got that emergency return to home, but don't you want to know where your drone is in the sky? I sure want to know where mine is. All right, everyone, have an awesome day. I hope that July is starting out great for you, and we'll see you again later in the week. We've got several projects going on, so Tuesday I'm going to be way up in the mountains doing a flight and a model of a new property for a new client. Their architect actually requested some drone models and some drone maps because it's a unique building location. So there's going to be a lot of challenges for this client, and I think we'll be flying that regularly, and you'll probably see some of those flights popping up here on this channel. All right, once again, have an awesome start to your week.